I found my husband's semen sample in our fertility clinic fridge with another woman's name on it. I opened our home fertility treatment fridge to check my hormone injections and found a specimen cup labeled with tomorrow's date and a woman's name I didn't recognize. My husband and I had been trying IVF for 3 years. Turns out, he'd been trying to have a baby with someone else the entire time, using the same doctor, the same clinic, sometimes on the same day as my appointments. What I did next didn't just destroy his affair. It exposed a conspiracy that ended 3 careers and left him facing criminal charges. I'm Dr. Naomi Chen, and this is the story of how my husband's ultimate betrayal became his complete undoing. If you're listening, please like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're calling from. I want to know how far the truth can travel when a woman refuses to be silenced. Let me take you back to the moment everything shattered. It was a Thursday evening in our Boston brownstone, one of those crisp November nights where the first snow threatens but hasn't yet fallen. I'd just gotten home from my job as a pediatric surgeon at Mass General, exhausted from a 12-hour shift that included an emergency appendectomy on a 6-year-old. My husband Ryan was supposed to be at a medical conference in Philadelphia. He's a pharmaceutical rep. Charming, handsome, the kind of man who made me believe in soulmates when we met at a hospital gala 8 years ago. We'd been married for 6 years, and for the last 3, we'd been on a devastating fertility journey. 3 years of hormone injections, 3 years of invasive procedures, failed implantations, and crushing disappointments. 3 years of Ryan holding me while I sobbed after each negative pregnancy test, whispering, "We'll try it again, Naomi. I'm not giving up on us." I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. That Thursday, I went to our garage where we kept a small medical-grade refrigerator for my fertility medications. The injections had to be temperature controlled, so Ryan had bought the fridge specifically for our IVF journey. "Whatever you need," he'd said, "we're in this together." I opened the fridge to get my evening hormone shot, and that's when I saw it. A specimen cup, clear, plastic, with a blue screw-on lid, the kind used for sperm samples in fertility treatments. But here's the thing that made my blood freeze. It was labeled with tomorrow's date and a woman's name I didn't recognize. Sample for Melissa Torres, appointment 9 a.m., Dr. Patricia Whitmore, Boston Fertility Associates. I stared at that cup, my brain unable to process what I was seeing. Boston Fertility Associates was our clinic. Dr. Whitmore was our fertility specialist. And tomorrow at 9 a.m., I had an appointment for an embryo transfer that we'd been preparing for all month. My hand started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the cup. I set it carefully back in the fridge, closed the door, and walked like a zombie to the kitchen. I sat at the counter, my mind racing through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Ryan was helping another woman get pregnant, using the same doctor who was treating us. Tomorrow, while I was at the clinic getting our embryo transfer into my body, was he planning to inseminate someone else with his sperm? I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and opened Ryan's location sharing, something we'd set up for safety when I started working night shifts. The app showed him at a hotel in Boston. Not Philadelphia, Boston, 15 minutes from our house. The lie was so casual, so effortless. He'd kissed me goodbye that morning, rolled his suitcase to the door, told me he loved me, and drove to a hotel 20 minutes away to spend the night with the woman he was trying to impregnate. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to that hotel and set it on fire. Instead, I did what I do best in a crisis. I got methodical. I took photos of the specimen cup from every angle, making sure the label was clearly visible. Then I opened my laptop and logged into our shared insurance portal. Ryan had never changed the password. I searched for claims under his name, and what I found made me physically sick. There were dozens of fertility-related claims going back 18 months. Consultations with Dr. Whitmore, sperm analyses, IUI procedures, IVF cycle monitoring, all covered under Ryan's insurance, all at Boston Fertility Associates. But here's the truly diabolical part. The claims were carefully timed. His appointments were always on different days than mine or at different times, so we'd never run into each other at the clinic. And the patient name on his claims? Ryan Chen, self. The secondary patient listed on multiple procedures? Melissa Torres, spouse. Spouse. He'd listed this woman as his spouse on medical documents. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Then I sat on the cold tile floor, my back against the bathtub, and let the full horror wash over me. For 18 months, more than half our IVF journey, Ryan had been simultaneously trying to have a baby with me and with another woman. While I was injecting myself with hormones that made me sick and emotional, he was at the same clinic, in the same building, helping someone else through the same process. While I was crying over failed implantations, he was probably comforting her through the same failures. And Dr. Whitmore knew. She had to know. She was treating both of us using the same man's sperm, and she'd never said a word. The betrayal was so massive, so calculated, that I couldn't fully comprehend it. This wasn't a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a systematic long-term deception that involved medical fraud, identity theft, and the corruption of a doctor who'd taken an oath to do no harm. I picked myself up off the bathroom floor and called the only person I trusted completely, my older sister, Jennifer, a federal prosecutor. "Jen," I said, my voice eerily calm, "I need you to come over right now. Don't call first. Don't text Ryan. Just come. And bring a lawyer." She heard something in my tone that scared her. "I'm on my way. 20 minutes. I hung up and walked back to the garage. I opened the fertility fridge again and looked at that specimen cup, the physical evidence of my husband's double life. Then I noticed something else I'd missed in my initial shock. There were other items in the fridge that weren't mine. A box of suppositories labeled M. Torres, an injectable medication with dosage instructions for someone else, a calendar card tracking another woman's ovulation cycle. Ryan wasn't just helping Melissa get pregnant. He was storing her medications in our house in the fridge he bought and said was for us. He brought his affair into our home, literally refrigerated the evidence of his betrayal in our garage. The front door opened. "Naomi?" Jennifer's voice, sharp with worry. I met her in the hallway, and whatever she saw on my face made her go pale. "What happened?" I didn't answer. I just took her hand and led her to the garage, opened the fridge, and pointed. Jennifer, brilliant, unflappable Jennifer, who'd prosecuted organized crime cases, looked at that specimen cup and whispered, "Holy shit."
"There's more," I said, and showed her everything. The insurance claims, the medications, the calendar, the hotel location showing Ryan 20 minutes away instead of in Philadelphia. Jennifer pulled out her phone and started photographing everything, her prosecutor's instincts taking over. "Naomi, this isn't just an affair. This is medical fraud, insurance fraud, possibly identity theft. If he listed her as his spouse on insurance documents while married to you, that's a felony." "I know," I said numbly. "I need to know who she is. I need to know everything." Jennifer made a call. Within an hour, her investigator friend Maria arrived with a laptop and a grim expression. "Give me a name, and I'll tell you everything public record can tell us." Melissa Torres, I said. She's a patient at Boston Fertility Associates. Maria's fingers flew across the keyboard. Within minutes, she had a profile on the screen. Melissa Torres, age 31, works as a pharmaceutical sales rep at Mitchell Brooks Pharmaceuticals. She paused and her expression darkened. That's Ryan's company. Of course it was. Of course he'd been screwing a coworker. How many business trips, how many client dinners, how many conferences had actually been time with her? She's single, no marriage records, Maria continued, lives in a condo in Cambridge. According to her social media, which is public, she's been posting about her fertility journey for the past year. Lots of inspirational quotes about single motherhood and choosing to have a baby on her own. I looked at the posts Maria pulled up, photo after photo of Melissa, young, pretty, glowing with that optimistic determination I recognized from my own face 3 years ago. Captions about taking control of my fertility and building my family my way and blessed to have an amazing support system. That support system was my husband, using my insurance at my clinic while I was in the same building, fighting the same battle, bleeding out money and hope and pieces of my soul. There's more, Maria said quietly. She clicked to a photo dated 2 months ago. It showed Melissa at what looked like a celebration dinner holding up a piece of paper. The caption read, "First positive pregnancy test, baby Torres coming June 2024. My vision blurred. I gripped the edge of the desk to keep from falling. She was pregnant. Melissa Torres was pregnant with Ryan's baby. While I was preparing for tomorrow's embryo transfer, desperately hoping this would be the cycle that finally worked, she was already carrying his child. Jennifer caught me as my knees buckled. "Sit down, now." I sat, breathed, felt my medical training kick in, the clinical detachment that gets you through trauma surgery and delivering terrible diagnoses. "How far along would she be?" I asked, my voice distant. Maria checked, based on the post date and typical pregnancy announcements, probably around 14 weeks now. 14 weeks. Second trimester. Past the danger zone where most miscarriages occur. She was probably showing, feeling kicks, picking out nursery colors. And Ryan knew. He'd known for at least 2 months that she was pregnant with his baby, yet he'd kept preparing me for our transfer, kept going through the motions of our fertility treatment, kept lying to my face every single day. Why would he keep trying with me if she's already pregnant? But I already knew the answer before Jennifer said it. "Hedges bets," Jennifer said bitterly. "If her pregnancy fails, he's got you as backup. If yours succeeds and hers does too, he can choose which family he wants to keep." The calculation of it, the cold, strategic planning made me want to vomit again. Or, Maria added darkly, he's planning to have both families. Plenty of men think they can juggle double lives. He probably figured you'd be so focused on finally being pregnant, you wouldn't notice him splitting his time. I thought about our house, our life, the future I'd imagined. A baby's room I decorated in my mind 1,000 times. Family vacations and school plays and teaching our child to ride a bike. All of it was supposed to be ours, mine and Ryan's. But he'd been building that same future with someone else. Maybe he'd been planning to have it with both of us, keeping 2 families in 2 cities, playing the devoted husband and father twice over. I want to destroy him, I said quietly. Not just leave him, not just divorce him. I want to make sure he pays for every lie, every manipulation, every moment he made me feel like my body was failing when really he was just betting on someone else. Jennifer smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Then let's build a case that will do exactly that." Over the next 48 hours, we assembled evidence that went far beyond a simple affair. Jennifer subpoenaed Ryan's phone records. She had a friendly judge who was horrified by the situation. Maria tracked his movements and spending for the past 2 years. I accessed our joint financial accounts and found thousands of dollars spent on Melissa, rent payments, car payments, fertility treatments that weren't covered by insurance. But the most damning evidence came from an unexpected source, Dr. Patricia Whitmer's nurse. I called the fertility clinic Friday morning and asked to speak with the office manager. I explained, calmly, professionally, using my doctor voice, that I needed to discuss a potential HIPAA violation and medical ethics breach. Within an hour, I was sitting in the office manager's office with Jennifer beside me as my attorney. Dr. Chen, the office manager said nervously, she knew me, had processed my payments for 3 years. What seems to be the problem? I placed a printed copy of Ryan's insurance claims on her desk. Your clinic has been treating my husband, Ryan Chen, for fertility services with a patient named Melissa Torres. At the same time, you've been treating Ryan and me as a couple for IVF. Dr. Whitmore is the physician for both cases. Either she didn't know she was treating the same man with 2 different partners, which would be astounding incompetence, or she knew and participated in fraud. Which is it? The office manager's face went gray. She picked up the phone. I need Dr. Whitmore in my office immediately. 20 minutes later, Dr. Whitmore walked in. She saw me and Jennifer and stopped dead. Dr. Chen, did you know? I asked, my voice like ice. Did you know that Ryan Chen, my husband, the man whose sperm you've been using in my IVF cycles, has simultaneously been your patient for fertility treatment with another woman? Dr. Whitmore sat down heavily. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then, quietly, yes, I knew. The office manager gasped. Jennifer leaned forward, her prosecutor's instincts sharp. How long have you known? Jennifer asked. 18 months. Dr. Whitmore admitted. Ryan came to me with Melissa after you'd been my patient for over a year. He asked me to keep them separate, to never schedule them at the same time. He said, she paused, looking sick, that you and he had an open marriage arrangement, that you'd agreed he could help a friend have a baby but didn't want to be involved in the process. And you believe that? I asked, my voice shaking. You believe that I, a physician, would be fine with my husband impregnating another woman at the same clinic where I was spending thousands of dollars trying to have his baby? Dr. Whitmore closed her eyes. I wanted to believe it. The fertility business is competitive. Ryan was bringing in 2 paying patients, 2 full IVF cycles. I told myself it was an unconventional arrangement, but not my business to judge. She opened her eyes, and they were full of tears. I'm sorry, Naomi. I should have talked to you directly. I should have verified his claims. I let money and convenience override my ethics. Jennifer was recording everything on her phone. Dr. Whitmore, did you ever discuss with Ryan the possibility that both women might become pregnant simultaneously? Yes. He said if that happened, he and Naomi would raise one child and Melissa would raise the other, with him supporting both. He framed it as a modern co-parenting arrangement. I laughed bitterly. Except I never agreed to any of that. He never told me this existed. You helped him commit fraud, Dr. Whitmore. Medical fraud, insurance fraud, and possibly identity theft, by not disclosing his sexual activity with other people during our fertility treatment. The implications of that hit everyone in the room. During IVF, sexual health history matters. STI risks matter. By not disclosing his relationship with Melissa, he had potentially exposed me to health risks during an already vulnerable medical process. Dr. Whitmore buried her face in her hands. What are you going to do? I'm going to report you to the state medical board, I said. I'm going to sue you for malpractice and ethical violations, and I'm going to make sure every fertility patient in Boston knows that Boston Fertility Associates prioritizes profit over patient welfare. The office manager stood up, her voice sharp. Dr. Whitmore, you're suspended effective immediately pending an internal investigation. Dr. Chen, Ms. Chen, please know that this clinic takes these allegations seriously. Not seriously enough to catch it for 18 months, Jennifer interrupted. We'll be in touch with our demands. Come on, Naomi. We left the clinic, and I felt a grim satisfaction. 1 down, 2 to go. That evening, I did something calculated and cold. I texted Ryan like everything was normal. Me, ready for tomorrow? I'm so nervous but excited. This could finally be it. Heart, Ryan, I know, baby. I'm feeling really good about this cycle. I'll be there right at 9 to hold your hand. Love you so much. While he typed those lies, he was probably in bed with Melissa, maybe feeling her pregnant belly, maybe talking about nursery colors and baby names. The fury that rose in me was so intense I thought I might spontaneously combust, but I channeled it into my plan. Jennifer had contacted the insurance fraud division of our provider. Maria had filed a report with the Massachusetts Medical Board, and I had one more move to make, the most public, most devastating one. Remember that specimen cup in my fridge? The one labeled for Melissa Torres for a 9 a.m. appointment? I carefully removed it, placed it in a biohazard bag, and stored it as evidence. Then I did something petty and perfect. I replaced its contents with a sample from our neighbor's dog. Yes, dog semen. Maria's investigator friend knew a veterinarian who was appalled by my story and happy to contribute to the cause of justice. I relabeled it identically and put it back in the fridge. Friday morning arrived. I woke up at 6 a.m., showered, and dressed in the outfit I'd chosen for our embryo transfer. A soft blue dress that I'd imagined wearing while finding out I was finally pregnant. Now, I wore it like armor. Ryan came home from his Philadelphia conference at 7:30 a.m., full of apologies about traffic and hugs, and I wouldn't miss this for anything. I smiled at him, kissed his cheek, said, "I'm so glad you're here." He went to the garage to check something in his car. I watched through the window as he opened the fertility fridge, removed the specimen cup, and placed it carefully in a small cooler he'd brought. He had no idea he was carrying dog semen to my fertility clinic. We drove to Boston Fertility Associates together, holding hands like the united couple we'd never actually been. In the waiting room, Ryan kept squeezing my hand, whispering encouragements. At 8:59 a.m., a nurse called my name. Ryan stood to come with me, but I stopped him. "Actually, honey, the doctor said only I should come back for the prep. You can join me for the actual transfer. Can you wait here?" He looked disappointed, but nodded. "Of course, I'll be right here." I followed the nurse back, and instead of going to the procedure room, I went directly to the office manager's office, where Jennifer was waiting with 2 detectives from the Boston Police Fraud Division. At exactly 9 a.m., another nurse would be calling Melissa Torres to the back. Ryan's carefully orchestrated double booking was about to collide in the most spectacular way possible. The detectives positioned themselves in the hallway. I stood with Jennifer and watched the waiting room through a 2-way window. At 9:02 a.m., a young woman walked through the clinic door. Even from a distance, I could see the small baby bump under her loose sweater. Melissa Torres, pregnant and glowing, there for her scheduled insemination with my husband's sperm he picked up from our home fridge that morning. She approached the check-in desk. The receptionist, who'd been briefed by the office manager, said loudly, "Melissa Torres, please have a seat. We'll call you back shortly." In the waiting room, Ryan's head snapped up at the name. He went white as a sheet. Melissa turned from the desk, and her eyes locked on Ryan. Her face went from confusion to shock to horror in rapid succession. "Ryan," she said loud enough for everyone in the waiting room to hear. "What are you doing here?" Ryan stood up, his hands raised in a "let me explain" gesture. "Melissa, I can explain." "Who's Melissa?" I said, emerging from the hallway with Jennifer and the 2 detectives behind me. "Is she a friend of yours, Ryan? Did you invite her to support us on our big day?" The entire waiting room had gone silent, everyone watching the drama unfold. Melissa looked at me, then at Ryan, then down at her stomach. Understanding dawned on her face. "Oh my God, you're married! You're married!" "Wait," I said, my voice carrying across the room. "You didn't know he was married? Ryan, did you tell Melissa about me?" Ryan looked like a trapped animal. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Nao, please, not here." "Not here?" I repeated. "Why not here? This is where we've been trying to have a baby for 3 years. This is where you've also been trying to have a baby with Melissa for 18 months? Seems like the perfect place for introductions." I turned to Melissa, who looked like she might faint. "Hi, I'm Dr. Naomi Chen, Ryan's wife of 6 years, the one he's legally married to, the one whose insurance he used to pay for your fertility treatments, the one he's been lying to every single day while helping you get pregnant with his child." Melissa's face crumpled. "He told me he was divorced. He said his ex-wife didn't want children, and that's why they split up. He showed me apartment listings, said we'd move in together after the baby came." "All lies," Jennifer said, stepping forward with her badge. "I'm Jennifer Chen, federal prosecutor and Naomi's sister. Mr. Chen, these are Detectives Morrison and Liu from the Boston Police Fraud Division. You're being arrested for insurance fraud, identity theft, and filing false medical documents." The detectives moved forward with handcuffs. Ryan tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go in the crowded waiting room. "This is insane," Ryan shouted. "Naomi, what are you doing?" "What am I doing?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "I'm making sure you face consequences for systematically frauding insurance companies, lying on legal documents, manipulating two women through an emotionally vulnerable medical process, and endangering my health by not disclosing my sexual activity during our fertility treatment. That's what I'm doing, Ryan." I turned to Melissa, who was crying. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. He lied to you too. He used you. And that baby you're carrying deserves better than a father who's capable of this level of deception." The detectives cuffed Ryan and read him his rights. Every patient and staff member in that clinic watched as he was led out the door, shouting denials and excuses. The office manager appeared, her face pale. "Dr. Chen, again, I'm so deeply sorry. Save it," I said. "You'll be hearing from our attorney and from the medical board and from every news outlet I plan to contact about how your clinic enabled this fraud for over a year." I turned to leave, but Melissa's voice stopped me. "Dr. Chen, wait. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know." I looked at her, young, pregnant, terrified, betrayed. I could have destroyed her with words. Instead, I took a breath and said, "Get a good lawyer. You're going to need one for the custody battle. And get tested for STIs. If he was lying to both of us, he could be lying to others too." Her face went even whiter, and I felt a pang of sympathy. But only a pang. She'd been careless enough to believe a man who wouldn't show her his divorce papers, who kept their relationship secret, who somehow never invited her to his home. As Jennifer and I walked out of the clinic, I felt lighter than I had in 3 years. Not happy. I was too devastated for that. But free. Free from the weight of lies, from the exhausting hope of fertility treatments, from a marriage that had been a performance. "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen," Jennifer said as we reached her car. "It's not over yet," I said. "Now comes the really fun part." Over the next week, the story exploded. A reporter from the Boston Globe somehow got wind of it, maybe from a helpful prosecutor who believed women's stories should be told, and it became a front-page scandal. Local pharmaceutical rep arrested for fertility fraud, double life exposed at Boston clinic. The article detailed everything: Ryan's double fertility treatments, Dr. Whitmore's complicity, the insurance fraud, the emotional manipulation of two women through an emotionally vulnerable medical process. My name was kept anonymous at my request, but Melissa's wasn't. She'd agreed to be interviewed, tearfully explaining how she'd been deceived into thinking Ryan was a divorced single father excited to co-parent. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Ryan's employer fired him immediately. Dr. Whitmore lost her medical license. Boston Fertility Associates faced multiple lawsuits and eventually closed their doors. The story went viral on social media, spawning think pieces about fertility fraud, medical ethics, and the emotional vulnerability of women undergoing IVF. Ryan's family called me, some apologizing, others accusing me of destroying his life. I blocked them all. They'd had 6 years to know who their son really was. I'd spent 3 years pumping my body full of hormones, spending thousands of dollars, enduring painful procedures, crying through negative pregnancy tests, all while he was building a second family behind my back. I owed his enablers nothing. The divorce was ugly, but quick. Ryan tried to claim I'd entrapped him, that the dog semen swap was illegal evidence, which it wasn't. It never entered anyone's body, and the real specimen was secured as evidence of fraud. His lawyer was a public defender who looked exhausted from dealing with his lies. I got everything. The house, the cars, the retirement accounts. Ryan got supervised visitation with Melissa's baby once it was born because, yes, a paternity test confirmed he was the father, and a criminal record that would follow him forever. But the real justice came from unexpected places. 3 months after the arrest, I received a message through my hospital email from a woman named Stephanie. Dr. Chen, I saw your story in the news. I think I'm Ryan's 3rd fertility patient. Can we talk? 3rd. There was a 3rd woman. Stephanie and I met at a coffee shop. She was 35, a nurse, recently divorced. She'd met Ryan at a hospital charity event 2 years ago. He told her he was single, that he'd always wanted children, but his ex-wife hadn't. He'd offered to help her have a baby as a friend, even paying for some of her treatments. She'd had no idea about me or Melissa, but her story added another layer to Ryan's fraud case and another victim to his growing list. Then came another message, and another. By the end of that year, 6 women had contacted me, some through my sister's office, some through Maria's investigation, some through the news coverage. 6 women Ryan had approached with variations of the same story, offering to father their children while maintaining relationships with multiple partners simultaneously. Only 2 had actually gotten pregnant, Melissa and one other woman who'd miscarried, but all 6 had been lied to, manipulated, and used in Ryan's twisted quest to father as many children as possible with as many women as possible. The prosecutors added more charges. The judge, a woman who'd herself struggled with infertility, threw the book at him. Ryan was sentenced to 5 years for fraud, given massive fines, and ordered to pay restitution to all his victims. More importantly, he was barred from working in healthcare or pharmaceuticals ever again. As for me, I took a leave of absence from the hospital to heal. I went to therapy, so much therapy, to process the trauma of betrayal, the grief of lost time, the anger at my body for not conceiving when his other partners had. My therapist helped me understand something crucial. Ryan's betrayal wasn't about my worthiness as a mother or a woman. It was about his pathological need for control and validation, his narcissistic belief that he could juggle multiple lives without consequences. I also made a decision. I was done with fertility treatments. If I was meant to be a mother, it would happen differently. I wasn't willing to put my body through more trauma for a dream that had been poisoned by Ryan's lies. Instead, I threw myself into my work. I became an advocate for fertility fraud awareness, speaking at medical conferences about the need for better clinic oversight and patient protections. I helped draft legislation requiring fertility clinics to verify relationship statuses and run background checks on sperm donors and involved partners. And I found peace in helping other people's children. Every surgery I performed, every child I saved, felt like reclaiming the motherhood I'd lost, not by giving birth, but by nurturing and protecting the vulnerable. 2 years after Ryan's arrest, I got a call from Jennifer. "Naomi, you need to see this." She sent me a link to a news article. Former fertility fraud convict Ryan Chen arrested again, attempted to donate sperm under false identity. Ryan, desperate and delusional, even after prison, had tried to donate sperm to a fertility clinic in another state using a fake name and fake medical history.
He'd been caught when the clinic ran a routine background check. "He can't stop," Jennifer said. "It's pathological." I felt a wave of pity, not for Ryan, but for the children he'd fathered. Melissa's daughter was now 2 years old. Stephanie's son was 1. They deserved better than a father who'd valued quantity over quality, who treated parenthood like a collection hobby rather than a sacred responsibility. But they had something Ryan would never understand. They had mothers who loved them fiercely, who'd survived his deception and built beautiful lives anyway. As for me, on what would have been my 10th wedding anniversary, I did something symbolic. I donated all my fertility medications to a clinic that helps low-income women access IVF. I cleaned out that garage fridge, the one that had held the specimen cup that exposed everything, and replaced it with a regular fridge stocked with wine and cheese for girls' nights with Jennifer and the other women from my survivors group. Yes, I'd started a survivors group. 6 women who'd been victimized by Ryan's fertility fraud now met monthly to support each other and advocate for legislative change. We called ourselves the Phoenix Collective, women rising from the ashes of betrayal. Last month, I got an email from Melissa. She sent me a photo of her daughter, Ryan's daughter, a beautiful toddler with his eyes and what looked like Melissa's smile. "Dr. Chen, I wanted you to see her. Not because I want anything from you, but because you deserve to know that something good came from all of this horror. Her name is Grace. She'll never know her father. I made sure of that legally. But she'll know her mother fought like hell to protect her. Thank you for exposing the truth. It saved me from years of lies. I hope you found peace. Melissa." I looked at that photo for a long time. Grace could have been my daughter, in another timeline, another version of events. But she wasn't, and I'd made peace with that. I replied, "She's beautiful. You're strong. And yes, I found peace. Not the peace I thought I wanted, but the peace I needed. Thank you for sharing her with me. Naomi." That night, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, looking at the stars over Boston. My house was quiet. No husband, no children, no photos on the mantle. But it wasn't empty. It was full of hard-won peace, self-respect, and the knowledge that I'd faced the worst betrayal imaginable and come out stronger. I'd found my husband's specimen cup with another woman's name on it, and instead of falling apart, I built a case that exposed a fraud ring, ended multiple careers, and protected other women from the same fate. Some stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with hard-won wisdom, fierce independence, and the satisfaction of knowing you fought back and won. This is mine. To everyone reading this, if you're going through fertility treatments, please verify everything. Ask questions. Demand transparency. Your vulnerability is precious. Don't let anyone exploit it. If you've been betrayed in ways you thought no one could understand, know that you're not alone. There are communities of survivors, and we're here for you. Share where you're listening from in the comments. Let's build a global network of women who refuse to be victims. Like, subscribe, and support this channel so I can keep sharing these stories of survival and justice. Together, we rise. The end.